Now we have a great African story, and it's all about the Baobab tree. Now, of course, everybody African here will know what I'm talking about. I didn't know until Andrew Hunt told me about it. He is someone who has spent much of his working life in Africa. He believes in brands and their power, and he believes being an entrepreneur as a source for good in Africa. While working in the Gambia over 4 years, he set up a small-scale producers, creating a company called Gambia is Good. For that, he won a UN Business and Development Award. But now comes something else, another beauty, and it's just that. It's a beauty project called Aduna, based on the legendary natural properties of the Baobab tree. I was so impressed by this that I said to Andrew Hunt, if you can tell the world in 10 minutes what you're on about, you can have a space. Come up, Andrew.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you very much for having me. I am indeed Andrew Hunt, and the first thing I'd like to do is to thank Mama Susie, as I think we have to call her now, for giving us this incredible opportunity to really launch Aduna, our Africa-inspired health and beauty brand, and also to share with you the inspiring possibility that is Baobab, the feel-good fruit. Baobab is the African superfruit that we believe could be worth as much as $1 billion to producers in rural Africa. 10 years ago, I was working in a big advertising agency in London, and I was investing all my energy and creativity in helping to sell nasal decongestants and frozen ready meals. And I was thinking to myself, what am I doing with my life? And actually, with one thing and another, I actually ended up being clinically depressed for 6 months, and I tried everything to get out of it, and I just couldn't. Until, completely out of the blue, I got a random phone call offering me the opportunity to volunteer my marketing skills to a social enterprise in the Gambia. Within just 2 weeks of being in Gambia, I was alive again, and I was inspired like never before. And instead of staying for 6 weeks, I stayed for 4 years. And I set up and managed a project called Gambia is Good, working with 1,000 small-scale producers like these, helping them to produce quality produce like this, so that they could start to benefit from the tourism industry, which until then, amazingly, had been importing the vast majority of its supplies from Europe. As Susie said, in 2008, we were awarded 3 international awards, including a United Nations World Business and Development Award. And from my experience in Gambia, I learned not only how to work from the bottom up with small-scale producers, but I also woke up to 2 massive opportunities. And the first one is this, which Joanne has just mentioned: natural products from Africa. Of all the botanical species in the entire world, 25% and more comes from Africa. And that statistic, well, sorry, let me finish the statistic. At the same time, less than 7% of the leading medicinal extracts. So if you put those 2 figures together, it tells its own story. We will be seeing, over the next coming years, a huge pipeline of exciting, innovative, and unique and extraordinary natural products coming out of Africa. Opportunity number 2. Now, we've heard a lot about this over the last 2 days from people who are a lot more well-respected and clever than myself, so I don't want to labour the point. But suffice to say that we are standing on the brink of a real breakthrough in terms of Africa and its influence economically and culturally. My take on this is slightly different. What I can't understand is how, with all of this happening, why we still don't see not even one premium African or African-inspired brand in the mainstream in the whole of the US or Europe, as far as I'm aware. Incredible. Instead, what we endlessly get is this. Cliche. Cliche, cliche. Sorry. Yeah. So, we all know what a great job fair trade has done over the last decades to bring some important issues to our attention. Fantastic. But times are changing. And I'd invite you to consider that when you see a label on a product that urges you to help people in the third world, that you're engaging in a conversation that is rooted in the past. And when the past comes into the present, then transformation is not possible. And so, the very power dynamic that the fair trade movement is seeking to transform is actually prolonged and perpetuated by the market itself. I don't know if you get that. Aduna says it's time for a new conversation. It's not about projects in Africa, it's about products from Africa. And it's not about products that are just made in Africa. It's about products that say something about Africa. It's about brands that celebrate Africa, and not the Africa of the tourist craft market with its bongo drums and Bob Marley maps. And yeah. It's not about Africa of the sympathy vote marketing. It's about Africa, which is the most unique source and potent source of vibrancy on the planet. It's the Africa who actually, through the movement of its people, gave us most of the things that we love about our favourite country in the world, Brazil. And also gave us most of the musical genres and artists that we worship today. So you just can't understand how this is not really being represented. It's just so badly represented and so badly marketed. So we decided to create Aduna. Aduna means life in Wolof, which is the language of Gambia and Senegal. And our brand mission is to breathe the vibrancy of Africa into the daily lives of people around the world. Inspired by the art form that is African wax fabric, we've created a brand that immediately, when you see it, says 1, Africa, and 2, premium. And there are no questions asked. And in that moment, when somebody buys our product, a little transformation happens. During the last 18 months we spent developing this brand, a lot of people, including industry experts, told us that nobody would pay a premium for a product from Africa because they just can't see how Africa can look in that light. And I'm glad to say they were wrong, because as of last week, our products are available in the world's leading department store, which is Harrods, and a lot of other leading retailers in the UK. So with a USP of African natural ingredients, our brand can stretch across a great number of market segments with a combined value of £3 billion in the UK alone, and growing fast. But from all these amazing natural ingredients, I just want very briefly to talk to you about just one, which is Baobab, the Baobab fruit from the tree of life. And to understand how extraordinary this product is, you have to know something about the tree. The tree itself is a prehistoric species, and it's been there since before the continents actually split. It's evolved and adapted to survive in the remotest and driest parts of the savannah in Africa, across 32 different countries. And it's done that with 2 tricks. 1, during the rainy season, it absorbs and stores water in its trunk. And then, when everything else for hundreds of kilometers around is dry and arid, and you can't see one green shoot, that's when the baobab tree will fruit, using water from its own trunk. 2, when most fruits are ripe, like this baobab fruit is right now, they fall on the ground and they decompose, and that's it till next year. Not the baobab. Baobab fruit, as far as we know, is the only one in the world that actually dries on the branch. So inside this pod, you have a ready-made nutritional supplement with a natural shelf life of 3 years. So this is how humans and animals were able to actually survive off this fruit, literally since the beginning of recorded history. We call it Baobab the feel-good fruit for 3 good reasons. 1, the obvious one, it makes you feel good. The other name it's got in Africa is the vitamin tree. It's got 14 essential vitamins and minerals, and it's 50% fiber. It's quite a remarkable product. Secondly, looking good, which we all want to do. Baobab is the highest ranking fruit in the antioxidant table in the Journal of Nutrition. So, if antioxidants really are the answer to anti-aging and skin health, then Baobab has the answer to that too. And finally, last but not least, doing good. These trees grow exclusively wild. Every single tree is community owned and wild harvested. There's an estimate from the National Resource Institute that 2 to 3 million rural households in southern Africa alone could supply this product from trees that are already in their compounds. And that represents just about a third of the total baobab volume in sub-Saharan Africa as a whole. National Geographic estimates the value of that market at $1 billion. If that weren't enough, then I think it's worth mentioning that baobab needs no land, no water, no refrigeration, no fertilizer. It's already there. It exists. This is such a huge opportunity. Commercially, yes, but in terms of actually pumping money into the remotest parts of Africa. And in fact, this opportunity is bigger than us, me and my business partner and our intern, who's doing a great job right now, by the way. We can create this, and in fact, the people in this room probably have the power to create this, almost like overnight, because no one's heard about this. So while I've been talking, our intern has been following all of you on Twitter. Every single one of you who's on Twitter, we've followed in the last 10 minutes. So I would ask you this. If you're inspired by the possibility of the feel-good fruit, then firstly, refollow us, and in 15 minutes, we're going to send a tweet. And I would ask you to retweet that and spread the word. Secondly, if there's anyone here who feels like they would like to get involved or can see a way to contribute or collaborate, then we'd love to hear from you in the breaks. And until then, I'll thank you very much. Thank you.